to rebuild. And if we don't build the future, they will. So we have to keep moving, all of us, together. We grow our movement. We build on this moment. We build our power for our bodies, for our families, for our planet. Our future is now. Let's build power with our friends, our families, our communities. When we move together, when we vote together, we win. Because we're not stopping at November. If we want to renew what's broken in our neighborhoods, in our nation, we have to keep building power, progressive power. Welcome to the largest youth Get Out the Vote tour in America with special guest Bernie Sanders. Are you ready to vote, fight, win?
Please welcome SEIU Clark County member Alexis Esparza and SEIU Executive Vice President Louisa Blue.
All right, we're a little short here. Just say. All right, so how is everybody feeling? Come on a little closer. Come on a little closer. So I'm really glad to see everybody here. Thank you, Next Gen, and Move On for inviting us here to address the crowd today. So we're going to have a lot to say, and we hope everybody has a good time while you're here.
Hi, welcome everybody, and I'm Alexis Esparza. I'm an SEIU member from Local 1107 here in the state of Nevada, and I'm also a 5-year employee at the Clark County District Attorney's Office. And as Louisa said, we want to thank Next Gen America and Move On for bringing this event here to Nevada, because as we all know, there's so much at stake in this state.
All right, so thank you, Alexis. I want to tell you a little bit about SEIU. We represent 2 million people in this country, including Canada and Puerto Rico. We represent all walks of life. We are diverse. We have lots of different people from cultures. We represent healthcare workers. Remember that awful massacre back in October 2017 in Mandalay? There was over 400 people that got shot, 80 people that got killed, and it was SEIU nurses and healthcare workers at UMC and at Sunrise Hospital that took care of those folks. We represent home care workers. We represent convalescent workers. We represent government employees. We represent airports, custodians. You name it, we represent a lot of people, and they're all there to serve the community. So, let's be clear. There are a lot of forces out there that are out to get us. Am I right or am I wrong? A lot. They're trying to take away our rights. They're trying to suppress our vote. They're trying to take away our voice. And so we have a lot of work to do between now and November 8th to turn this country around.
I'm 33 years old, and I have 2 children. They're here with me tonight. And I want them to live in a world that is better than the one I live in. And there is so much at stake. I have a daughter, and I want her to have a right to choose what she can do with her body. I don't want anybody telling her what she can or can't do. I work hard for them. I want the world they live in to be better than the one I live in. I want the world they live in to be more just and equitable than the one I live in. And we're going to do that change by going to the polls and making sure that we vote the right people in office, the people who are going to have our backs.
And sisters and brothers, let me tell you, it is going to be the youth in this country that is going to forge a positive future for all of us. There are 70 million folks between the ages of 18 and 35 who are eligible to vote. Think about that, 70 million people. And it's going to be the youth. You are our future leadership. You are the ones that are going to take up the battle for us and make this country a better place. I have a 19-year-old granddaughter. It is going to be the first time she is going to vote. And so she understands what the stakes are at. So it is ridiculous what people are trying to do here. And we have to stand together, shoulder to shoulder, and we have to fight back, and we have to take our ballots to the box.
So it is time that we recalibrate our economy and get it working for the future leaders of this nation. We know that we have the power to create the change. So again, we want to thank Next Gen America and Move On for hosting this event tonight. And again, we're super excited to hear from our Senator Bernie Sanders, who is the most popular U.S. Senator with the youth of the young people.
All right, so let's make sure that workers continue to have the right to organize into a union. Let's make sure that our vote counts. Let's make sure that we have a voice. Let's make sure that no one tells my granddaughter and her daughter what to do with their body, because that is our body. All right, so let's make sure we do that. So let's work again to improve this economy. And before we go, I want to thank Next Gen and Move On for hosting this tour for our future. And this is just not one tour, but there's been touring of this bus all over the country. So before we hear from more great folks that are here to speak to us, this is something that we do with SEIU. We like to do chants, all right? All right, so tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Hey, tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
When we vote, we win. 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 Get out there and vote.
Kitty check. There we are. Hi, everybody. Well, please welcome Nevada Conservation League's Communications Director, Angeline Tabalba.
Thank you. Now, if there's anything we've learned from our last election, it's that when we elect climate champions to office, we get things done. My name is Angeline Tabalba, and on behalf of the Nevada Conservation League, I'm proud to be here alongside so many powerful activists who are working daily to protect our right to vote, to protect the choices we make for our own bodies, and to protect our right to a safe and healthy environment. You know, this year, our federal government delivered. We passed the largest climate investment in our nation's history with the Inflation Reduction Act. We did. $369 billion in funding is going to go to communities across the country to create jobs, to advance clean energy, to invest in environmental justice, and protect our climate. Now, this law brings the benefits of clean energy to every zip code in America, no matter where you live, to make the transition affordable to electric cars and to energy-efficient appliances. You know, the Inflation Reduction Act is a turning point for America. It's a moment when we finally determined we need to do more to protect our planet. In Nevada, we know how important climate action is for our communities because we feel it and we live it. From the record-breaking temperatures that we feel right here every summer, to the fires in Reno that are scorching communities, and to the historic drought that is driving down water levels at Lake Mead. These events are a glimpse of our future. And it's a glimpse of our children's future if the climate changes faster than we address it. And let's not forget that these impacts are felt hardest in low-income communities and communities of color who don't have the resources to respond to climate change as others. Communities that don't have the privilege of going home and forgetting how climate change is impacting their lives, forgetting that extreme heat is affecting their lives as their AC unit struggles to cool their apartment. Communities that don't have the privilege to forget about smog pollution because their neighborhoods are situated in areas near roads and freeways as cars spew pollution into the air. This election is up to us to elect climate champions who not only protect our communities from extreme weather events, but also prioritize just and equitable solutions. You know, fortunately, Nevada takes climate seriously. It's why we established a goal to reduce harmful climate pollution. It's why we've led the nation in innovative measures to reduce our water usage as a state. It's why we passed major legislation last session to strengthen our transmission grid, to expand electric vehicle charging infrastructure across the state, and help a more equitable, clean energy economy. But that work was only possible because last election you made your voices heard. You turned out to vote, you sent climate champions to elected office, and this election season you need to do it again. Without an environmental majority, our ability to build on this progress and advance on issues like climate change, like environmental justice, and voting rights will all but disappear. Now, when we elect climate champions to the House, to the Senate, and in Nevada, we can expand the possibilities on progress on the things that matter most, which is the health and safety of well-being of everybody across this country. Now, our work is far from done, and I know you know that. So this election, the future of our planet and our democracy is on the line. So let's get out there and win.
Please welcome the Vice President of Communications for Next Gen America, Antonio Arellano.
Oh, I know it's a little chilly, but come on now. How's it going, Vegas? You know, I heard there is a young progressive movement brewing in the Sin City. Is that right? Well, I hope that you are ready because my good friend and our special guest, Bernie Sanders, is in the building. Look, listen. Speaking before you today is such an honor. My name's Antonio Arellano, and I am an undocumented immigrant. I am a part of a generation of young, fearless immigrants who refuse to hide or be paralyzed by the intimidation and fear-mongering tactics of the far right. I was born in Guanajuato, Mexico. My family is originally from a rural town called La Cinta, Michoacan, population 197. There's probably as many people here tonight as there is back home. And back home in my community, our people have been neglected, ignored, and terrorized. That, compounded with the lack of health care, education, or economic opportunities, made my parents have to make the difficult decision to move, to migrate to America in search of hope. When I arrived in the States, at just 3 years old, I quickly fell in love with this nation. And I believed in its promise of equality and justice for all. But it wasn't long before I realized that that promise did not apply to me or to my family. My immigrant upbringing exposed me to the discrimination and racism communities of color have had to endure for far too long. These injustices sparked my lifelong passion to win the immigrant community the respect and the representation that we deserve. In recent years, we've all witnessed how hateful rhetoric targeting immigrants can quickly turn violent. Extremist Republicans are doing everything that they can to take control because they are afraid of our collective progressive movement. A powerful, multiracial, multilingual, multi-generational movement that refuses to turn its back on the most vulnerable. That's who we are. Together, undocumented immigrants and our citizen allies can create change. For over a decade, I've been working with Black and brown communities building grassroots power, and I'm here to tell you that there are hundreds of thousands of dreamers just like me who are encouraging our citizen allies who can vote to rise up and meet this moment. It's about damn time Republicans come to terms with the fact that there are over 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country yearning to breathe free. For far too long, immigrants have been treated like a political piñata by the Republican Party, and I'm here to tell you, enough. I've got a radical proposition for folks on the far right. Let's fix our broken immigration system for once and for all and provide a pathway to citizenship for all of our neighbors. Let's embrace diversity and stop shrinking away from the opportunity to enrich our society with the cultural contributions migrant communities have to offer. And let's create an immigration border policy that does not dehumanize families. This November, let's make it clear to the Republican extremists that we won't go back to their anti-immigrant agenda of family separation, discrimination, harassment, abuse, and mass deportation raids. We're not going back. This election is personal for people like me who are currently protected temporarily under the DACA program. And it's important to remember that DACA was won as a result of tireless and fearless organizing from undocumented youth. But DACA was only a Band-Aid, not a real solution. We must enact legislation that will protect and permanently defend DACA beneficiaries. But Republicans have blocked legislation in Congress, and now Trumpified courts are determined to end DACA in the coming months. I just want you to know that I apologize to nobody for my immigrant background, and that Republicans can try to pin the world against me, but I will never reject my culture, my heritage, or my people. Now is the time for bold and fearless progressive leadership, which is why I am organizing and mobilizing across this country with Next Gen America to activate young progressives who are eligible to vote into action. The future has arrived, and we refuse to wait any longer to be recognized and respected. I believe we will build a nation with no discrimination. I believe we will deliver for the essential workers who kept this country running during a global pandemic. I believe we will reject racism and xenophobia. And most importantly, I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. Thank you.
Please welcome campaign manager for Move On, Alexis Martinez.
Hi, everyone. Wow, it's great to be here. My name is Alexis Martinez. I'm a campaign manager at Move On, and I'm a young Mexican-American woman from Florida, a state that is constantly under attack by MAGA Republicans. And I've seen the effect that this has had on my community, on my friends, on my family, and I've seen the impact of climate change on the state, from extreme heat to the lasting impacts of Hurricane Ian. But I have hope. We're all here today for one reason. We want to win on November 8th. We want Democrats to be elected up and down the ballot in Nevada and across the country. Why? Because our rights are under attack. Our freedoms are under attack. And we only have one shot to defeat MAGA Republicans this November. You all know that Republicans have failed us time and time again. It's no secret that they want to continue to strip away our rights, that they want to ban abortion, and that they deny the impacts of the climate crisis. And it's no secret that they don't want us to say gay and live freely. There's so much on the line this November. But remember, Democrats are fighting for us by canceling our student loans, lowering the cost of health care and prescription drugs, combating climate change and investing in clean energy, and by making billion-dollar corporations finally pay their fair share in taxes. That's why we must vote to help Democrats stay in power in the House and the Senate. We got to protect and build upon this progress and once again vote Republicans out. We have a chance to fight back and fight for our future now. And we're going to do that by heading to the polls. But it's going to take more than us right here, right now. It's going to take our communities, our friends, our families. Are y'all ready to win this November? Yeah! At Move On, our members are working hard every day to win this election. We're calling voters, we're talking to our friends, we're talking to our communities. Will you join us? Yeah! So you can sign up to get involved right now. All you need to do is text 66836. You'll text Vegas to 66836, or you can also scan the QR code on the screen. Are you with me? Yeah? You'll receive a reply back with 3 options of how you can get involved. Each of us who can vote can only vote once, but we can triple our impact by talking to 3 people we know and asking them to vote too. I know it sounds too simple to work, but it's scientifically proven to work. So y'all can text your favorite group chats right now and let them know. As a young person, there are times where I fear for our future, our rights, our planet, knowing that there are people in power who don't have our best interests in heart. But when we come together, I know that we can elect progressive champions who will fight alongside us. I know that together we can save our planet, protect our rights, and build a country for all. So let's head to the polls and vote, fight, win. Vote, fight, win. Thank you all.
Please welcome Michelle Prada, actress and activist.
Climb off the side. Wow, guys, it's so amazing to see you guys here tonight. I can't tell you how, like, it's been a very rough few years, I'm sure, and the fact that you guys are still showing up and still here, Nevada, like, I'm just completely blown away. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm so thankful to be here, and what I'm seeing right now is community, and that is so beautiful because something that they've proven time and time again, more than the food you eat or whether you're drinking or not drinking, whatever, is your ability to stand in community is one of the most important things that we have. And I feel so like inspired to see you guys here. I'm also really inspired and really grateful to be here to gather and really celebrate one of our most trusted elected officials. I like to call him Theo Bernie, if I can bring back a little something from there. But yes, Bernie Sanders, and this is a man that has been fighting for all of us for decades. So when we feel tired, I'm like, we have to look to him and be like, if he can do it, we can too. You know, he's out here pounding the pavement to inspire and call to action the young people and the working class to vote. And tonight we are going to continue taking up that call and go out and make sure that it is something that we will not be quiet over. I'll tell you one thing about being a Latino woman, I do not like being told to shut up. So I hope you guys can channel your inner Latino woman and be like, hell no, we're going to keep talking. Especially because I don't need to tell you that this election will determine whether or not the Democrats are in the majority of Congress. And our votes, and more importantly, our community and our movement are going to affect the outcomes of some of our most vulnerable people. And it is our responsibility to continue showing up for them and for each other. I want to take this moment again to honor all of you that have come out and continue to come out. Past the point that it's exhausting, maybe past the point that it's not cute, like you are still here. And know what a power that is. That is a strength and a power that moves mountains. And I want to really take a moment, if we can, like, cheers for you guys for really doing that. I really, like, especially because it's like hearing your guys' voices, like that is the voice that is going to fight for the things that so many of us progressives really, really, really care about. Little things like, you know, reproductive freedom, criminal justice reform, climate change, healthcare, and one of the issues that I care very, very much about, immigrant rights. We're here tonight as part of a rally that is called The Future Is Now. And as a Latino woman, I feel that. I grew up in Florida in a very working class family. My parents immigrated to this country and worked very hard to give me a future. I recently, just in the last few years, heard of a story of my mother coming here. We will not shut up. Anyways, coming here, and my grandmother worked in a factory in New York City, and my mom would sit under the sewing machine, and once an hour all the kids would be able to come out and play. So it's not lost on me that so much of why I'm able to be here is from the work and the sacrifices that those women did for me to be here. Our country is built on the working class and on the immigrants that have come here to work and to thrive. And to be honest, before 2016, I was a young voter that was disillusioned. Our family was so close to, I just didn't think politics were for me. I was convinced much more on surviving and the day-to-day of what that meant. Then I felt the burn. I was very surprised. I was like, oh, okay. And I haven't looked back. And I won't. I'm going to continue looking towards the future. The future is now. There's nobody, I think that was like a big thing for me, right? I grew up, fairy tales and all that stuff, but you grow up a little bit and you're like, nobody's going to come save me. We are the heroes we're looking for. And we will continue to be that for each other. Especially in what we've saw, in the last few years. We all know Las Vegas was hit very, very, very hard with this pandemic. People from across the country saw this vibrant, gorgeous city just completely shut down. We saw images of Nevadans who had lost their jobs, their homes, and most importantly, their hope. We also saw Democrats provide relief and aid to those in need with the largest COVID relief package to get Nevadans back on their feet. We saw Democrats cast their votes to expand health care, a compassionate human act, to millions of people and make their biggest investment ever to the climate crisis and to build clean, renewable energy, to build the moments that we need now for the future. We have to keep going, and we will. Once again, if you're here, it's because you're somebody that cares. Not just about yourself, but you care about each other and about community. Know what a power that is. Know that when other people are exhausted, you keep showing up. Because many of our friends and family are understandably very, very tired. It's been a hard few years, and what I've learned and what I've seen through some very high highs and very low lows is the importance of us to continue to encourage each other. We know that we come from people that have come before us carrying a torch, that we've gotten here because they've carried that torch for us, and it's now our responsibility to take that and move it, even if it's just a little bit further. It'll be worthy. It's hard, but it's worthy. Especially because I think another thing to realize is we're not defined by any one victory or any one valley. We can't give up on each other. We have to lift our voices. And you know what? It doesn't have to be a struggle. It can be cute. We can vote, and it can be cute. So I would actually encourage you guys to do a little vote brunch. Pull out your phones, text some people, and be like, let's go to the polls before we go to our bottomless mimosas. Maybe that cutie on Tinder, maybe you're like, let's do a voting coffee. Let's just do a little voting coffee. Heck, maybe if you need some exercise and some fresh air, take a hike to the voting polls together and do a group hike, and you can get all these really cute selfies afterwards. Because, to be honest, we need to keep the Democrats in the majority. We need to keep Democrats in the majority. That is where we're at right now. We need each of you to take that on and to encourage each other and to use that power that you have of continually showing up to encourage others that might not feel that and might be too exhausted to do that. This, hold on, I'm like gonna get the dates right because I keep messing it up, but right, because I know that every state is different. I know that early voting has started, so this is something that you can start now. It started now. It goes until November 4th. We have Election Day, November 8th. Make your voices heard. Go be loud, go be proud with those beautiful voices of yours. Thank you.
Please welcome the President and Executive Director of Next Gen America, Cristina Sinsoon Ramirez.
Y'all, who's excited to defeat fascism again this election? I am too. My name is Cristina Sinsoon Ramirez, and I'm the president of Next Gen America, the country's largest youth vote organization that last election helped get out 1 in 9 young voters across the country, leading to the largest youth voter turnout in American history. And together, we all defeated Donald Trump last election. At Next Gen, we know the power that young people have as the largest, the most progressive, and the most diverse generational voting bloc. And we know that despite what MAGA Republicans say, what's best about this country, our country, is our diversity. And I know this too because I live this. My mom is the oldest of 9 kids from a poor family in Michoacán, Mexico. And my dad's a white American hippie that met my mom while he was living on a commune. And my white grandpa used to say that me and my siblings were purebred Irish Mexican Americans, if you'd ever seen one. And as a kid growing up, I knew there was nothing purebred about my background, but I got to see and learn something that a lot of other people don't. That it doesn't matter the color of your skin, where you come from, how you pray, or who you love. That at the end of the day, we just all want the same things. We want to be safe, to be healthy, to go to great schools and have good jobs and then time off from those jobs to be with those that we love and do what we love. And when Bernie Sanders ran for president in 2016, he showed our entire country that asking for those things wasn't asking for too much. That it was the basic things that every single family and person in the richest country in the world should and could have. But some Republicans running for office only seem to believe in the power of the ultra wealthy and the well-connected. But not us. We believe in the power of us. And we know it's not asking for too much to not only judge our economy by how well big corporations are doing, but to judge our economy by how well ordinary people are doing. And we know it isn't asking too much that every single American be able to go to the doctor when they are sick and have the highest quality health care when they need it. And we know it isn't asking too much to leave it up to women instead of politicians to decide when we are ready to make a family. And we know it isn't asking too much to transition our economy off of fossil fuels that are literally killing us, to clean energy that will create millions of good jobs and leave a healthy planet for each and every one of us and future generations. And that's why young people are turning out in record numbers, because we know that our country is at a fork in the road. One path veers towards fascism and authoritarian rule, and the other veers towards where the people rule. And yeah, we were able to defeat Donald Trump in 2020, but we didn't just turn out to fight fascism. We turned out for a vision for our country that was more fair, more just, for a government that would truly represent us. That's why we had record-breaking turnout of young people in 2020. And you know what that got us? That also got us the largest investment by any country on the planet to tackle the climate crisis. The highest youth voter turnout in American history also got us gun safety legislation when politicians said it couldn't be done. The largest youth voter turnout in American history got us student debt relief. And the largest youth voter turnout in American history also got us long overdue marijuana reform. That is the power of the youth vote in action. And I don't know about you all, but I'm going to come out and vote this election because I'm not finished. I'm just getting started with the agenda that I want to see for our country. And we have to remember how powerful our vote is. That's why in state after state they are trying to suppress the power of our vote and make it harder, especially for young people of color, to exercise their right to vote in this country. Now, we have to remember that the numbers are on our side. And yes, the arc of history is long and it bends towards justice, but we have to be the ones to bend it with the full weight and power of 70 million young Americans that have the power to vote in this country. Now, I come from Texas, where it is the hardest state to vote in the country. And I know some people, when they think of Texas, they think of people like my white grandpa who always wore amazing cowboy boots and a cowboy hat every day. And we've got a lot of great white cowboys in my state. But our state is majority young, brown, and black. That's who Texas is. So last legislative session, we wanted people to know, young people and the politicians in our state that were debating bills to make it even harder for us to vote, about the power that we had. Now, Beto O'Rourke, when he ran in 2018 and took 71% of the youth vote and scared the shit out of Ted Cruz, well, he lost by only 220,000 votes. You know how many young people of color turn 18 every year in Texas? 270,000. So when they debated that bill, we snuck in 36 young activists and organizers with backpacks filled with 270,000 different colored rose petals. And we snuck them in and we went to the Texas Rotunda and we climbed up all the floors and we waited for our signal because we were going to throw them out to show just how powerful we are. And we waited until this 19-year-old singer in a hot pink power suit and flowers all in her hair, she got into the middle of the rotunda and she looked up at us. And then she started to sing as loudly and powerfully as she could, Amazing Grace. And then we tossed out all the flowers, and as they floated out all around her, many of us that were there started to cry. Because we could feel in that moment the power and the history of that moment, of those that came before us and those that will come after us. And that day we sent a message to millions of young people in our state and to every single politician that we have the numbers and power to win, and ultimately we will win. And along the way, we will fight back against their darkness with our light, against their ugliness with our beauty. And if you try and cut a rose bush down, it'll grow back. So let's send a message to every single politician that is trying to take our country backwards. That if they want to cling to the past, they can have it. But the future, now that belongs to all of us.
Please welcome the Executive Director of Move On, Ronna Epting.
Hello, Las Vegas! That doesn't sound like Vegas. Hello, Las Vegas! Thank you! I'm so excited to be here tonight as the Executive Director of Move On. I just want to say I'm coming here with love and solidarity from the millions and millions of Move On members in every state in this country, in every congressional district. They're all gathering in rooms like this, just like us, to ensure that we defeat MAGA Republicans this November. Who's with me? 11 days, folks. What happens in 11 days? Oh, wow, you beat me to it. We have 11 days until the voters decide the fate of this country. 11 days till we decide the fate of this country. 11 days to talk to every single person we know, to help them make a plan to vote, to ensure they cast their ballot, and to make sure they talk to 3 friends and family members to do the same. 11 days to ensure we make progress, to ensure we move forward, not backwards. Do we want to go backwards? Do we want elected officials determined to pass a national abortion ban? Do we want members of Congress who go to Washington to give the rich tax cuts at the expense of all of us? Do we want to elect election deniers to office that are willing to throw democracy under the bus just to hoard power for themselves? That's right. We will not go backwards. We will go forward. We will continue to make progress for this country. We have done so much over the course of generations to create and expand the franchise of democracy for everyone. And there's no way we're going to give it up and cede ground to MAGA Republicans this November. And we have made great progress, folks. Even in these 2 years, the progress is incredible. Raise your hand if you or someone you know got their student debt canceled. Hey! We elected Joe Biden into office, and we called on him. We called on him to cancel student debt, and he heard our call. Up to $20,000 of student debt is canceled for millions of working people, working families in this country, taking off the crippling debt that was holding us all back. Raise your hand if you or someone you know has been impacted by climate change. Whether it's impacted our pocketbooks or made us move, or my parents in Northern California who have to deal with wildfires every single summer. We elected members to Congress. We called on them. We organized. We made calls. We had meetings with our members of Congress, and they passed the largest climate bill in United States history. We did that. They didn't do it by themselves. We did that. We make it happen. And we're not stopping now. We have so much more progress to make. We need to make an economy that works for everyone, not just Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. We need to pass $15 minimum wage. We need every worker to have a right to a voice on a job. We need to make sure we protect the right to vote for every single American. So we're not going backwards. Where are we going? That's right. And the one thing that we're going to need to make sure we have in order to keep going forward is we need to elect people in office that will safeguard and protect our democracy and our elections. And that is too on the ballot this November. But you want some good news? Who wants good news? I want good news. We are the majority. There are more of us than them. And when we show up, we win. What happens when we show up? What happens when we show up? One more time. What happens when we show up? That's right. And guess what? Talking about showing up, have I got a man for you? I got a guy backstage. He shows up for all of us. He never gives up. He never gives in. He shows up for democracy. He shows up for workers. He shows up for climate change. He shows up for $15 minimum wage. He never gives up on us. I want to introduce you to our friend, Senator Bernie Sanders. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people.
Thank you, Rana, for the introduction. Thank you all very much for coming out this evening. And let me also thank you for helping me to win the Nevada Democratic primary a couple of years ago. I don't have to tell anybody that we are living in very unusual, maybe crazy times, right? We are dealing with a lot. We're dealing with a pandemic that has taken over 1 million lives, and people are getting sick every single day. My brother just came down with COVID, worries me. We are dealing with climate change, of which, if we don't get our act together, and you know more about it than I do, you're living through it right here. You know, I remember a couple of years ago, I came here, got off the plane and at the airport, and the temperature is 106. Nobody blinked an eye. In Vermont, 106 is pretty hot, I got to tell you. Here, I know it's a cool summer day. But on a serious note, you all know that if we don't get our act together as a world, not just America, it's going to get hotter and hotter. There'll be more drought, more floods, more extreme weather disturbances, more mass migrations of people. It is an existential threat. People are worried about that. And as Rana just mentioned, we're all worried about an extreme right-wing Supreme Court who unbelievably in the year 2022 has decided that women in this country are not smart enough to make decisions about their own bodies. A total outrage. And then we have 10 million undocumented people in this country who worry every single day about what's going to happen to them. So we got a lot on the table that we are worried about. And I think the result of that is a lot of people, become a little bit down. They throw their books or something at the television when the news comes on. And then on top of all of that stuff, you got right-wing extremists who are working day and night to undermine the very foundations of American democracy. And just step back a moment and ask yourselves, people in Nevada and Vermont fought and died to make sure that we are a democratic country where the people make the decisions, and these guys want to move us to an authoritarian society. And Trump and his friends keep peddling this big lie that he won the election. Well, let me make it clear. Donald Trump, you lost the election. And if you run again, you're going to lose again. But when we look at the issues facing us, it's not only Trump and his allies who are undermining American democracy. We have a corrupt political system which enables billionaires to buy elections. What democracy is supposed to be about is people getting up there and arguing and debating their vision for the future. You like them, you don't like them, argue it out. That's called democracy. Democracy is not when multi-billionaires spend hundreds of millions of dollars on lying TV ads in order to elect the candidates who will serve their interest. That ain't democracy. That's called oligarchy. And in the midst of all of that, it turns out that the great state of Nevada will end up playing a pivotal role in terms of the future of our country. And that is not an exaggeration. Which party controls the Senate and the House will determine the future of this country. And that's why I am here to ask you to make sure that Catherine Cortez Masto is re-elected. I have worked with Catherine Cortez Masto for a number of years on a number of projects. She is doing a hell of a job for Nevada. Let's see that she returns to Washington. But what we're dealing with is not just people trying to undermine democracy, not just people trying to take away a woman's right to control her own body, not just the issue of climate change, etc. What we are dealing with right now is an economy which is failing the working class of this country. So what's going on right now, and I'm going to tell you what very few members of the Congress will tell you, but it is the truth. You're living in an economy today which is doing very, very well for all of you who are billionaires. My guess is not too many of them are here tonight. But what all of you should appreciate, that every American should understand, that people who are thinking of voting Republican should understand, today we have more income and wealth inequality than at any time in the history of the United States of America. You got that? I mean, in America, from day one, there have been rich and there have been poor and there have been people in the middle. But you have more inequality today than we have ever had. In America today, you got 3 billionaires, 1, 2, 3, who own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. Can you believe that? And these guys have so much money. They have so much money, they literally don't know what to do with it. They got homes all over the world. I just read some guy just bought an island. They're flying around in their jets. They live in gated mansions. They don't know what to do. In fact, some of them now have decided what they want to do with their money is buy spaceships and go to Mars, quite literally. So they got a real problem. They got so much money, they don't know how to spend it. And then on the other hand, you have people today, 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. You all know what that means, living paycheck to paycheck? I grew up in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck. And what that means is that people are working hard. And at the end of the week, they come home, they get their paycheck, and they're no further ahead. Maybe they are even further behind. And then they go to some payday lender here in Las Vegas who charge them 50% interest rates in order to pay their medical bill. So you got 60% of our people living paycheck to paycheck. You got millions of people living on starvation wages. You got older workers, half of our older workers who are about to retire, they got nothing in the bank. You got people who are struggling, especially with inflation, to put food on the table, to maybe once in a while take the kids out to eat, to go to a ball game. People are hurting while the richest people in this country are becoming much richer. That is the state of our economy today. Now, on top of all of that, we are dealing with inflation. And my Republican colleagues are going all over this country and they're saying, you know, inflation is caused by Joe Biden, by Bernie Sanders, by others who passed the American Rescue Plan. That's the cause of inflation. Well, you know what? They're lying. Right now, inflation in the United Kingdom is 10%. Inflation in Europe is 11%. Inflation in many countries is higher than in the United States because the causes of inflation are global. They have to do with the pandemic and the breakdown of supply chains. They have to do with the terrible, terrible, destructive war in Ukraine, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And I want to tell you what else inflation has to do with. It has everything to do with corporate greed. And we don't talk about it enough. Now, I noticed here in Nevada, you're paying a few bucks for a gallon of gas, right? Well, you should know that ExxonMobil's profits are up 280%. Do you know that? Chevron's profits are up 277%. ConocoPhillips' profits are up 146%. And there was just a piece in the paper today that the head of ExxonMobil, He said, I know that people have been commenting, on our profits, and I'm paraphrasing him. And he said, our duty is to our shareholders. To hell with the American people. No, I said that. He didn't say that. I don't want to misquote him on that. But it is not only the oil companies who are making huge profits. It is the food manufacturers who are making huge profits. The major drug companies have seen a 90% increase in their profits. There was a study that came out recently that said 54% of the cost of the impact of inflation, cause of inflation, was caused by corporate greed. So inflation should be at 4%, but these guys looked around and they say, you got a war in Ukraine, you got a pandemic. We can take advantage of that. Think about the moral aspect of, in the midst of all of the crises we are facing, they're saying we can raise prices sky high and nobody will notice. Well, I notice, and that is why I think we're going to impose a windfall profits tax on these rappers. And, these people blame, they say, well, it's the American Rescue Plan that caused the problem. Well, let me tell you something here. In the midst of the pandemic, you all remember a couple of years ago? You remember pandemic, people dying right and left. We didn't have a vaccine. People losing their jobs every single day. People get evicted from their homes. So I'm here to tell you that I make no apologies for making sure that every American man, woman, and child got a check of $1,400. No apologies. And when millions of workers lost their jobs because of the pandemic, and I know that Las Vegas was hit particularly hard, I make no apologies for extending unemployment benefits. And when we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country, and working families are struggling to raise their kids, I make no apology for fighting for a $300 per month tax credit for working families. And when hospitals were overwhelmed with COVID patients and many on the verge of collapse, I make no apologies that we put billions and billions of dollars to strengthen and rebuild hospitals all across this country. So, thank you. So I think we should also focus on something my Republican colleagues do not want us to focus on, and that is actually what they would do if Catherine lost here and if they gained control over the Senate. Let me tell you what they would do. They won't tell you, so I may as well tell you. Now, these guys go around all over the country and they say, we're terribly worried about the deficit and we're terribly worried about the national debt. Well, you know what they'll do? They want to repeal the estate tax, which is a tax that applies only to the wealthiest of the wealthiest, the top 1/10 of 1%. If you repeal that tax, it will increase the national debt by $1.75 trillion. Now, these are the guys who are very worried about the deficit and the debt. $1.75 trillion by giving a massive tax breaks to the families of the very wealthiest people in this country. Elon Musk's family alone would get a tax break of $83 billion. But in order to deal with their tax break and pay for it, they got another brilliant idea. While senior citizens in Nevada and Vermont and all over this country are struggling to pay for their prescription drugs and their health care and their apartments and everything else, they want to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. So I say to my friends here all over Nevada, if you think it makes sense to vote for a party that wants to give massive tax breaks to the top 1/10 of 1% and then cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, think twice. That is an absolutely absurd set of policies. We cannot elect those people. But this campaign is more than being critical of the disastrous policies of the Republican Party. This campaign has got to be about a vision for a new America, about a government and an economy that works for all of us and not just the very rich and campaign donors. So I'm here to tell you tonight, and I know it's hard. I know that these are tough times and a lot of people are discouraged. But I'm asking you, for the sake not just of yourselves, but your kids and future generations, we must have a vision of a very different America. This is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And there is absolutely no reason why all of our people cannot enjoy a decent standard of living. So what do we have to do? And the point is, I know that, you're reading the papers, or some Republican tomorrow say Bernie Sanders is an extremist. All of the ideas that we talk about are supported by the overwhelming majority of the American people. We are not the extremists. You want to know what extremism is? Extremism is giving tax breaks to billionaires and cutting Social Security. That's extremism. Extremism is turning your back on climate change and letting future generations suffer. That's extreme. Extremism is taking away the right of women to control their own bodies. That is extremism. But I'll tell you what is not extremism. What is not extremism is raising the minimum wage to a living wage. Nobody who works 40 hours a week should live in poverty. What is not extremism is making it easier for the American worker to form a union and get involved in a union. We will not grow the middle class unless we grow the trade union movement, period. And I am so excited that all over this country we're seeing people stand up and fight and organize unions and start negotiating for decent wages and decent benefits. But what many workers are running into, whether it's Starbucks, whether it's Amazon, owned by these billionaires, is illegal anti-union activity. They fire workers who are involved in organizing. They're refusing to sit down and negotiate a first contract. Our job is to make it easier for workers to form unions, not harder. And when we talk about a future of America, that certainly is not extreme. It is what the American people want, and that is to recognize that health care is a human right, not a privilege. We are the only major country not to guarantee health care to all as a right. I live 50 miles away from the Canadian border. You end up in the hospital in Canada, so you have a serious operation, you're there for 2 weeks. When you come out, you know what your bill is? It is zero. You walk into a doctor, you don't take out your wallet. Health care is a human right. And this system is so incredibly dysfunctional, so complicated, so cruel, that we are now spending twice as much per person on health care as the people of any other nation. We spend over $12,000 for every man, woman, and child. Meanwhile, 85 million Americans are uninsured, high deductibles, high copayments, high premiums. They can't get to a doctor on time because they don't have the cash to pay the doctor. And you know what ends up happening? 60,000 Americans die every year because they don't get to a doctor when they should. That is insane. We need Medicare for all. And when we talk about our vision for the future, these are not radical ideas. They exist in countries already all over the world. You think about it. We live in a very competitive global economy. 100 years ago, some very brave people said, you know what, we want our kids, we're working class people. We want our kids to be able to get a high school education, not just the rich, and that became free public education from K to 12. And we thank those people. But the world has changed, and people need more education to get the good jobs that are out there, either a college education or the technical training that they need. And that is why we have got to make public colleges and universities tuition free, and technical training as well. Not a radical idea, a common sense. And by the way, if my Republican colleagues want to give a $1.75 trillion tax breaks to multi-billionaires, we can cancel all student debt in this country as well. So here is where we are today. We are a nation where people are hurting. We are a nation where people are angry. And you know what? People have a right to be angry. Today, as I think I mentioned, real wages for the average American worker today are lower than they were 50 years ago. You think about the explosion of technology, worker productivity increasing, and yet real inflation accounted for wages lower today than they were 50 years ago. When I was growing up, in most families, there was one breadwinner who was able to pay the bills for the whole family. Today, it is very rare that you have one person in a family. Mom works, dad works in order to pay the bills. And people look around them and they worry about what's happening to their kids. What kind of future their kids will have. Will their kids have an even lower standard of living than they do? People can't afford health care. They can't afford their retirement, and they're scared and they're angry. What we have got to do is make sure where we focus that anger. What the Republicans want to do is focus that anger inward. What they want to do is divide us up by the color of our skin, or where we were born, or our sexual orientation, or our religion. That is not the way we should be focusing our anger. We should be focusing our anger on the incredible greed of the billionaire class who think they have a right to control the economy, control our political system, and control our media. So that is where we are today. That's what this campaign is significantly about. It's which way we go. Do we rip each other apart? Do we have working class people fighting with each other? Or do we stand together? Now, I'm not a great mathematician, but I do know this. 99% is a hell of a lot larger number than 1%. So what I'm asking you tonight is do everything you can to make sure that Catherine is reelected. She is a good senator. She deserves to be reelected. And with her reelection, we stand a decent chance to retain the majority. But I'm also asking something more of you in these difficult times, and that is continue to go forward the day after the election. Continue to work with your brothers and sisters in the fight for health care is a human right, in the right of workers to form unions, in the right of all of our people to earn decent wages, in the fight to save the climate. We have an enormous amount of work in front of us. But if we put our shoulders to the wheel and we are united and not divided, I am confident that we will succeed. Thank you all very much.